Okay, the first thing I did was copy the label from the printer upside down. The reason I did it upside down is because I could line up the bottle and kind of make it straight so we could work with it. Okay, then I flipped it right side up and then I trimmed it. Then I realized it was a little bit too small. So I measured the label on the actual bottle and it was 11.5 centimeters. I went online and converted the centimeters to pixels and I ended up with, let's see here, 435 pixels by height. I locked the ratio so that the width stayed the same. All I'm trying to do with this image is to get the size so that we know where to put the text boxes and logo and things like that. Okay. And I don't know how to work this voice recorder very good, so, oh wait, here we go. Next, what I did was import the logo from Firmadial that I downloaded online earlier. So now I have to determine how big it should be. So first of all, the product is Firmadial Firmo 5, but I couldn't find a logo for Firmo 5, so we're going to have to use a font to write in the word Firmo 5. So what we have to do is determine the size of just the part that says Firmadial. And so I have to come up with a ratio or an estimate of the spacing between the logo and the edge of the logo. So I'm looking at the actual bottle and I'm going to measure it. Okay, so what I did is I increased the view to 200%. That doesn't increase the actual image, just your view. It magnifies it so you can see a little bit better. And I decided to use as my points of reference the chemical compound in the logo. Up at the top it says something like CH3, at the bottom it says H2O. So I put my guidelines right on the top and bottom of the actual logo, leaving no spacing in between for the top and the bottom. And I'm going to do the same thing for the sides. Okay, I had to increase the view to 300% because I had trouble seeing where the edge of the font really is. Even though it looks like the letter is white, they always put a little shadow or a little shape into it. So I had to increase it a little bit more so I could see where my left-hand marker is on the edge of the F with a little bit of room for the styling. And on the right side, I use the edge of the registered trademark logo. Okay, so now what I'm going to do is I'm going to make a box the same size as my guideline so I can see the size of the box. Okay, the size of the yellow box will be the size that we have to make that giant logo that we downloaded offline. I made the box yellow so we could determine it is a tool and not part of the design. So it turned out to be 181 width by 52 height. So we want to keep that ratio. First thing I'm going to do is start working independently with the logo. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to lock the original scan and the rectangle or whatever, I don't know, but I'm going to isolate the enormous bitmap that we downloaded from online. Okay, so now I'm working on the logo, downloaded logo. We'll change, let's just call it logo so that we know what we're talking about. It's at 200%. And what I want to do is I want to try to trim it as close to the logo, clean out any space on any side of it. This is not always the option. Sometimes you want to put, X amount of room on each side of it, whatever. But since we took the original image, and it was easiest to measure at the top of the chemical wording. Like I was saying, at the top there was CH3, and at the bottom is H2O. So to get it close, what I've done is I went a little bit high. And the reason I've done this is because now I could use my arrow keys, and it'll move exactly 1 pixel each time I hit the arrow key, as opposed to trying to move it with the mouse, which is just incredibly difficult, especially with the more detail. This one seems like it's going to be a pretty easy one because everything's going to be kind of square. So there's my measurement. I'm going to hit delete, and then I'm going to go 1 down and hit delete again. Okay, that should be close enough. You can see I did 2 different times. So now what I could do is I just move it all the way across to the right. I just keep going along that line. I use the arrow key so that I don't accidentally shift it up or down. Next, I'm not going to mess with the square at all, with the deleting square. I don't know what they call it, but the bitmap tool. And I'm just going to use the down arrow key and get it down below the H2O. Once you get your detail, I changed the view range from small to big, depending on my needs. If I need detail, it's going to be big, and if I just need to get it done, it's going to be small. Like if I just need to take a big cut out of it, it's going to be small. So we'll see on the next image. Okay, here I took a practice shot at it without taking an image of it. So I know that this is the right place. I thought about going 1 pixel lower. First thing I did is I increased it to 300, and then I did it 1 pixel right there, and then I did it 1 lower. And to undo your mistakes or whatever, you could take a shot at something, and to put it back the way it was, you hit Control Z. I wouldn't recommend going too many steps, more than 1 or 2, without making sure that you're headed the right direction. So I took a practice step, and I know this was the right place to cut it. The height is done, so now what we're going to do is we can get rid of those 2 big black patches, just so that we'll now have a smaller bitmap, and we'll only have to do the work on the sides. And if you're wondering what happened to the original label, I just made it invisible. But I left the yellow block there because it just wasn't going to interfere with my work. Okay, I thought I was recording, but I wasn't, so I don't know. But anyway, now we have the logo at 100% as downloaded from the internet, but without all the extra black trim on the top and the bottom. So now we're going to do the left and the right. And so I'm going to zoom in to about 200% so I can see a little bit of shadow on the letter F on the left side. And I'm going to use that for my deleting tool, because on the other side is the registered trademark was a roundish shape, which is going to come down to 1 pixel. So I'm going to make the trimming tool to match the shadow that you can't really see until you get up close, but you can't see it at this size. It's your eye picks it up, but it just looks like a fancy font. But when you get in close, you probably recognize a pixel when you see one. Let me do that real quick. Again, I'm starting. First of all, I put it at 300 view. I couldn't see the shadow even at 200 view, but now you can see it. Colors other than white, but not black. You see that? Okay, so we want to keep all that and start trimming from there. So again, I'm starting 1 pixel away from my target. So 1 pixel to the left of the F. I'll go ahead and hit delete. I actually could have got that right on target, but just because, well, this one's a little easier because it's so black and white. It's really easy to see, but there's sometimes with the more rounded letters and things like that where you have a, for instance, if you had to do a circle, you have to do very little at a time. But I could have really got that all in one shot. But the thing is, the reason I go one pixel away from my target is if you try to get it right on some of the more detailed things, you'll be there all day. So if you can just get it next to it and start moving it around with your arrows, you could clean this stuff up really quick. So I'm going to go ahead and finish this side, and I'll see you on the other side. Since I'm finding it really so easy to work with, when I got to the other side with the registered trademark, I just decided to get it over with, right? So when I did, it's like really far away from it, not intentionally or anything, but I just slopped it on there. I slopped on the delete thing. I could see the 1 pixel where I have to stop really clearly, and you'll see that in the next image. So there we have it. We have now a logo that we're going to use. That's going to be the logo that we now use. We're going to need it at least 6 times with the products that we have in front of me. As you can see, it's still quite a bit bigger than the yellow square, which is also 100%. So next we will transform this shape down into that shape, and hopefully it should fit right in without having to stretch or skew. And so what I'm going to do now is I'm going to export that logo into our files the way it is at that size, and that way we'll have it for future use.